All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live broadcast of first aid, how to make a first aid kit for dogs. I'm Dr. Heda, and I'm here
Shantanu?
with Dr. Shantanu. Okay, so I actually run a veterinary clinic called Critter Care Veterinary Clinic in Mumbai, and I mainly specialize in exotic animals, which are birds, reptiles, rodents, rabbits, those kind of animals. And I also work with native wildlife. So Dr. Shantanu is also a wildlife vet. He has worked in. I'm sorry. I just
Yeah, I've been working with wildlife for a while now. I've worked in the Bandipur Tiger Reserve before for a few years, and right now I work as a consultant with elephants and reptiles all over South India. And yeah, um,
Yeah, so and he also runs a service called Dial a Vet. So if you could tell us more about what that is.
oh yeah, so we when the lockdown started a few months ago, we were trying to. A lot of people kept calling in and asking us to if we could go and handle cases in their houses, and then it just didn't work out because we were locked down too. So we started this thing where we could offer veterinary advice over the phone to anyone in the country because we found a lot of people in smaller towns had absolutely no access to vets at all. We did this, and it's now been 3 months, and we've had calls from every state in the country. So it's going.
That's amazing. I think that's actually the need of the hour right now. And
Yeah.
you also have a clinic called the Wolf Wagon.
Yep. So yeah, we have a clinic and we have a boarding kennel in Mysore. We have a clinic in Bangalore and Mysore, and we do groomings and that sort of thing. It ties in with all the services we offer online and over the phone. And
Awesome.
but yeah, and so your clinic has you do a lot of domestic wildlife too, right?
Yeah,
And
so basically it's urban wildlife, yeah, because we are in the city. So yes, we do a lot of urban wildlife that we get in the city as well.
yeah.
So we already have a question from Sapna. She's asking
Yep.
whether the vet service Dial Vet is available in Mumbai as well.
Yep. We are all across the country, so it's available in Mumbai as well. And
Yeah,
we'll put up the number very shortly.
we'll be sharing the contact details towards the end of the talk. I think right now we'll concentrate on what we're here to talk about, which is how to make a first aid kit for dogs. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I think first let's talk about why it's so important to have a first aid kit at home.
Okay, so yeah, we are. For me, especially, everywhere I'm driving to, I tend to notice whether there's a dog on the street that's been hit by a car, or there is always some animal emergency that pops up anywhere you're traveling or driving to. And if you have animals in the neighborhood, if people know that you are good with them, you will end up getting a lot of calls to provide first aid for for the dogs and cats around. So it's good if you're
Definitely.
good and comfortable with animals, even if you're not a veterinarian, to just have a basic first aid kit and have something
Yeah,
around that you can get to in an emergency, and so that you can get
exactly.
an animal to a vet in time.
Yeah, exactly. I think the main thing to have these kits around is so that you can at least do the basics before you take the animal to the vet. Just so that things don't get worse by the time they reach us. What would be the essentials of a first aid kit? Like, what should people like? How would you make a first aid kit? What would be in that kit?
A few things I would keep would be just some basic wound dressing stuff like gauze and cotton, a little bit of betadine and Savlon, any
Okay.
antiseptic ointment, and uh, I would keep a few other things because we handle some worse emergencies. But then things like sucralfate for if your dog has diarrhea and you might not be able to get to a vet in time. Keep something like a sucralfate around, which is just a gastroprotectant, and it keeps your dog. a gastritis from getting even worse until you have time to get to the vet. And
Okay.
yeah.
And yeah. Okay, and so betadine, yeah, betadine is of course to clean wounds. I think we can also talk about what use we can do. I mean, how we can use those at home. So, so betadine is of course for cleaning a wound.
Mhm.
Savlon is also for disinfecting the wound. Cotton, of course, but make sure the cotton is also sterile and clean so that you don't go, for it to further infecting that
Yeah.
wound.
Mhm.
And what antiseptic ointments would you suggest?
I would normally just stick with the betadine ointment or a chlor.
Betadine.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Okay.
once you
Yeah.
clean out a wound with your betadine, just slap on some betadine ointment, and it's easy to clean out as compared to something like haldi, which people tend to put a lot into wounds, uh,
Yeah.
and it's really
Definitely.
tough for us to clean out. So
Yeah, I think yeah, that's something we really need to talk about is the do's and don'ts of your first aid kit. So I think a major don't is haldi or turmeric. So because it completely packs up the wound. It kind of it contaminates the entire thing. Honestly, it takes so long to get that stuff out. So yeah,
especially if
please
you
guys.
have to do like a minor surgery, or if you have to do a surgery later, and it's an orthopedic thing where there's a broken bone, if you have to clean
Oh my
out,
gosh,
yeah, and
haldi
that's
out of a
happened.
bone. Yeah. So
Especially,
guys,
and
yeah. So
especially
a
with
first
smaller
aid kit
animals.
shouldn't have any masalas in it. Okay, keep the spices away.
Yeah,
so, so
and
yeah, and yeah, you were saying
sorry, and no,
what
I
else
was just
would
going to
you
say
have?
that if you have, it doesn't need to be this massive big box that you need to carry around. Something small that you can replicate. You can have one in your car and one in the house also. It's not very expensive to keep,
Yeah,
and you don't have to keep like lots of betadine. Just tiny bottles. It's you don't
yeah,
use it that often.
yeah. You really
And
don't need that much.
cool.
And any other
And
veterinary ointment like acrylin or Hymax or any of those? Would you advise
I
pet
would
owners to keep?
I would say for when it's with pet owners, not so much, but with a large animal, if you have cows and sheep and goats around you, then yes. Or if it's a stray dog,
Yeah.
I do have to deal with a lot of cows and sheep and goats on occasion. But it's just the thing is with Hymax is with cats and dogs, it burns a lot, so then it
Yeah.
just makes them a little more anxious when you get to the clinic. And again, Hymax is hard
And
to
of course,
clean out.
getting it out. Yeah. So I think yeah, this I think it would be safe to say that a small bottle of betadine, that's betadine liquid, the solution. Also, betadine ointment, some
Mhm.
clean, like a small roll of cotton,
Yep.
and a small roll of gauze,
Um, and some
and
sterile pads or
like
sterile cotton or
mops.
sterile pad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I think yeah, that's a pretty basic first aid kit that we could make for dogs. Okay, I think let's come to some of the types of wounds that we see, or an emergency situation that would arise where we would need to use the first aid kit. Starting with small cuts that are bleeding. All right. So
Uh-huh.
what should we do for that first?
So what I would do would ideally, if it's a small wound and it's not that large, it's bleeding a bit, I'd flush it out, one with tap water, or if you have better if your first aid kit is at hand, flush it out with some betadine. And if it continues to bleed afterwards, I'd apply pressure on it with one of the sterile packs that you have in your kit, or even a small, if you have gauze or a clean cloth, put pressure on it and hold pressure on that wound for at least a couple of minutes. And if it continues to bleed through that, then you'll need to add more packing on top, but never take that off unless you know the bleeding is completely stopped. And if it's a large wound, I wouldn't take that off at all.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And okay, we have a question from Sapna. She asks, how does Flatuna tablet help dogs? So
Uh,
Flatuna is basically simethicone and activated charcoal.
okay, so I would activated charcoal. I'd use. I've never heard of Flatina tablets, but it would be a thing we would use with basic
Mm.
indigestion, and if they've eaten something and you can't get them to vomit in time, that's something we'll be getting to. I think with poisoning, if you accidental
Yeah.
poisoning,
Yeah.
if it would be one of those things you can use in case of an accidental ingestion of something like repellents or any poisons or
Yeah,
chocolate.
but and of course, and they immediately need to see the
Get
vet.
to it.
It's not, the
Yes.
Flatuna is not going to help them. Uh,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's poisoning. Yeah. So yeah,
Oops.
Flatina is basically also for gas and indigestion and things like that. So that's how it helps. All right. So again, in types of wounds, then so we spoke about cuts. Another kind of wound would be a burn. So what would you do for a burn? So we have electrical burns. They get into all kinds of stuff. We in strays especially, I get a lot of silencer burns as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what would you have at hand for that?
Um, get your dog to a vet immediately. It would be the first thing.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you could clean out the wound again, use your betadine. And something I found for burns that are, well, open wounds as well is, um, especially if you can't get to a vet or the dog isn't letting you catch it, but it's got an open big wound and it's back, and there's no chance that you're going to be able to treat it or get a vet to help out. So
Yeah.
Kralfate actually works really well. So
Really.
Kralfate is like you get sucralfate as an ointment or even liquid oral sucralfate syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Pour it on the wound and it kind of forms a layer. It's
Uh-huh.
used a lot in human burn wounds, in
Nice.
especially in big hospitals and burn management wards. Uh, Found that out with because we had I actually found that out because we have an elephant with a really big open wound, and we had
Mm-hmm.
nothing that we could cover the wound with, so we started using this and it helped heal it pretty fast. So
That's pretty awesome. I think, yeah. So yeah, sucralfate has a lot of good things to do, but yeah, obviously don't just randomly feed them
yeah, ideally
sucralfate
call your
first.
vet and and we will let you know
Before you
whether.
do anything, yeah, before you do anything, please speak to the vet. They can also guide you over the phone as to what you can do before you get to them. So I think that's a good way. So keep communication lines open, with your vet at all times.
Yep.
Yeah. And so any other kinds of wounds that you see in practice, generally when it
Um,
comes like household hazards, or things like that, or obviously on the streets it's much worse.
we've seen a lot of. I guess we could talk about fractures and open fractures and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So we've had,
So
especially if you see car accident cases where there's bones protruding out of a limb or
yeah.
that sort of thing. Uh, Again, make sure you're really something we need to talk about in the beginning. But remember, your safety is paramount because if you get injured, you can't do very much about the dog or cat that you're treating. So
Definitely.
make sure you don't, just go up to the animal suddenly and reach down for it. Be really cautious about approaching an injured animal, um, and and then think about what you're going to do. And ideally, call your vet or call a vet. You have dial a vet available if you need help with it,
Def-
and
yeah.
then your vet can help you along.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously don't try to do anything on your own with a fracture. And also I think Kiran wants a list of the medication that you've listed in the first aid kit. So I think we'll make a separate post about that and put it up so people can know what goes into a basic first aid kit, so they have it all down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so maggot wounds. Thanks, Sapna, for that again. Maggot wounds. which are also pretty
Um,
commonly seen in pets as well as stray animals.
yeah. So do you want to talk about what to do with the maggot wounds in pets? I'll
Sure.
talk
So,
about.
yeah, maggot wounds, I actually don't advise people to use ivermectin at home, because we've had a lot of toxicity cases when they've overdosed pets with ivermectin tablets or such. So I wouldn't suggest using ivermectin at home, but you obviously should not be treating a maggot wound by yourself. So before you get to a vet, if you have a maggot wound, obviously again clean it with betadine. And what I always suggest is, if it's a hole, you just pack it up with cotton, so that basically the maggots, a lot of them, they just suffocate and die. It's easier for us to remove them then. So yeah, I wouldn't advise you to use any of the medication like ivermectin, etc., at home, because we've had a lot of toxicity cases when it comes to just popping a pill, or sometimes in tiny puppies and such. If you even flush the wound sometimes with ivermectin, they do show toxicity. So
Yeah.
do not, not something that you would keep
Don't
in your
use.
first aid kit. But so
Yeah.
just you can definitely stuff that wound with cotton so that the maggots suffocate, because the maggots do need air. They keep coming up for air. So if you stuff it, they will suffocate and die. So that is something that you can do at home before you take your dog to a vet. Okay,
Yeah.
and I think let's talk about bite wounds.
Yeah. We had someone bite when we're talking about bite wounds. We have a question about how to separate dogs if they're involved
Separate,
in a fight. One would be to chuck water at them. That works
water.
really well.
Yeah,
Chuck it right at their face, and if you miss, throw the mug. And
yeah, and
just the
also then
noise,
run away.
like the try and make a loud noise really close to them. Throw water on them. If you have anything to spray at them, that would work. Even sand or mud, like when there's
Hmm.
sand thrown at them really fast, the shock of the this thing kind of gets them to let go for a second, and then
Yeah.
and when they let go, make a really loud noise, so both of them kind of get scared and turn and leave each other. It's all about getting them distracted.
Yeah, just don't like draw too much attention towards yourself.
Yeah. And do not put your hand in between.
Yeah, do not put your hand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about bite wounds. So if you have a bite wound, what would you do?
uh,
If your dog
if
has been in a fight, it has a like nasty bite.
Yeah. So if your dog has been bitten by any another dog or a cat, or you have been bitten by your dog while you were trying to separate them, just I would run your hand under or run the dog's wound under running water for at least 5 minutes. Try to get everything out, try and clear as much hair from away from the wound as possible, and just keep flushing it out as much as you can, and then get to a clinic as fast as you can and get anti-rabies
Get the
shots.
rabies shots. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if
Definitely.
you have been bitten by a dog and you don't know the history of the dog, there is a chance of rabies. It's not just the anti-rabies vaccine that you'll need to take. You have to get immunoglobulins,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I've seen them. They inject immunoglobulins directly into the wound itself.
it's really painful looking. It's my wife had to have that happen because she got bitten, and it's not fun to watch. It's not fun to get them either.
Yikes.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, we have a question from Kiran. Eye care is if there is some dirt or any like particulate matter in the eye.
I would, another thing that you could add to your first aid kit would be a bottle of normal saline, and you could use
Yeah,
that, or you could just
yeah,
wash the eye out with some tap water.
yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, don't try any other stunts with the eye.
Yeah,
All right,
and
let's come. Yeah,
no, if you can't get it out, get to a vet immediately.
yeah. Okay, yeah, let's. So with that, I think we'll come to emergency situations that pet owners can face at home. Um, So okay, wait, hold on. There's just one question here with regarding the previous thing. If so, a rabies shot a human gets, for how many years is it valid?
Even if
The
you
human.
like when you get a rabies shot, you should get it a prophylactic shot every year. But if you
Yeah,
are really working with animals, then I'd recommend getting your titer done once in a while, every couple of years,
definitely.
and then it
Yeah,
tells you whether you need to have more shots or not.
yeah.
And yeah, and no, hydrogen peroxide is not very good for wound cleaning.
No, please, no. That's one of the biggest don'ts. Okay, no hydrogen peroxide, please. It really really hurts. You should actually try it on yourself. It burns. Okay, it's horrible. So no hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah,
And
okay. So
yeah,
let's get to emergency situations that people face at home. So before they can get to a vet, what can they do immediately? So so emergencies, like let's say they've ingested something like a toxin, chocolate, grapes, raisins, um, pesticides.
uh-huh. Um, what would you recommend with your with private clients and things, or like with small
So
animals?
yeah, with dogs, normally, of course, if you've seen them doing it, if they've licked it in front of you, obviously the first thing is to get them to throw up, so that whatever substance might be there is brought out before it has a chance to get absorbed in the stomach. um, so yeah, but first obviously speak to your vet. They'll tell you also how to make them throw up. In some cases, yes, we use hydrogen peroxide to make them throw up, but for people at home, that's what we use at the clinic sometimes. But for most people at home, I suggest salt water, like uh, very strong, what's the word for it,
Very
very
salty salt water.
salty, very salty salt water. So it's very concentrated. That's the word. So yeah, concentrated salt water.
Yeah,
So
about a
you basically
tablespoon of
have to,
salt per cup of
so
water.
yeah. So you kind
And
of force feed them that, and they will throw up,
yeah,
and then take them to the vet immediately.
yep. But if you
Anything?
give them a lot of salt water and you notice anything strange happening, like any behavioral issues happening after, like there's a sudden nervous tick, their eyes start flickering around, you notice anything strange that that wasn't already there, get them to a vet faster and stop giving them that salt water.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just enough to make them vomit. Once they vomited, they immediately need to go to the vet. So this is just
Yeah,
before, if just immediately after they've ingested something. If it's been more than an hour, do not try to do anything. Get them to a vet immediately.
yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
No,
Toxicity wise. Yeah.
no,
Okay.
nothing
And also,
for.
foreign bodies. We have a lot of dogs that eat stones, balls, leashes, collars, like everything that they can find. Socks. Oh
I
yeah,
would,
socks.
if it's a small object, and I would suggest, and it's not something that would go through and be pooped out easily, I would get them to the vet.
Yeah.
If it's something small enough, try and get them to vomit it out. It's
Hmm.
like, even if it's a small sock and things, some dogs can
Yeah.
puke it out.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, I would get a vet to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, if they've eaten anything, some dogs have also eaten batteries, so that can be very very dangerous. Uh, so if they've eaten the battery in front of you, get them to throw it up immediately. But
Yeah,
if obviously they will, like it's been a while, you need to get them to a vet immediately, because obviously uh, the
they
acid from the
can.
battery is going to cause problems.
Yeah.
uh,
And yes, utensil scrubbers are a big issue. We've had that before. But yeah, and a lot of the times, because they're so rough, you can't get them out. They can't vomit
yeah.
them out. So you will have to get
Hmm.
a vet to pull them out.
Yeah, I think, Yeah. Also, any other emergencies that you come across, like apart from like crazy wounds or
Um,
ingestion?
I've had a lot of road accident cases, considering I'm driving half through the day, and but
Not you,
and
na.
no, not yet. No, thank. But we've had a lot of road accidents that I've seen on the road, and I
Yeah.
usually, another thing I keep is, uh, thankfully the back of my car has this little board which I use as a stretcher.
Hmm.
So or I also have a car seat cover which I can use as a makeshift hammock kind of stretcher as well. And
Yeah.
so what you do is you try and immobilize the dog and don't move it around too much, especially if there's a, say, a spinal fracture and things. Put it down on a flat surface, or put it in a big towel or something you can carry them with, and get two people and get someone to help you carry the dog into your car so you can take it to the clinic. And
Definitely. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
that's all.
important. Yeah, if there are any fractures, make sure you're not moving them around too much, especially if it's a spinal injury or spinal fracture. They need to be as stable as possible. Okay, what to do if a dog licks sanitizer? So I think there was
Um,
actually a WhatsApp going around that says your dog is gonna die if it licks sanitizer because it has some so they had mentioned a compound which actually doesn't even exist, that they claim to, so that was claimed to be in sanitizer. So I think that's just one of the WhatsApp university's fake news bulletins out there.
yeah,
So yeah, nothing will happen to your dog if they lick sanitizer. Okay,
yeah.
it's basically
If they do drink a full bottle, then get to the vet,
yeah, then it's a problem because they're gonna be very drunk. But
and
no,
they can
I'm
go
just kidding.
blind.
They,
but
yeah, so
yeah.
just
So,
if you sanitize your hands, and if your dog licks your hand, that's fine, nothing's going to happen to your dog. Just make sure your sanitizer obviously doesn't have flavors that are known to be toxic to dogs. I
mhm,
mean, I honestly don't know what kind of flavors are available out there, but if it's something like tea, coffee, chocolate, grapes,
yeah.
yeah. uh,
And
okay, we have
someone
another
said
question
something
about
about
frogs.
yeah.
What if
Uh,
what if the dog accidentally eats a frog or gets on its mouth?
so with frogs, I wouldn't be so concerned, but toads, yeah, I think well, either you're losing me or I'm losing you. Sorry,
Okay, I think
but hi,
yeah,
sorry. No, I was saying with frogs, I wouldn't be so worried. Toads, if your dog ends up swallowing one, get them to throw it up. But most of the time, as soon as they get a toad in their mouth, they're going to start frothing all over the place, and then yeah, and then call your vet.
yeah, please. And I think Sapna, anal glands are something that your vet would clean out for you. You don't really need to do that at home. So speak to your vet about it. It's not something that's an emergency unless obviously there is a wound there, or it's impacted, or there's an infection there. So speak to your vet about how to go about cleaning out anal glands, or your vet is the best person to do it for you. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and yeah. So emergency wise, we can talk about
Hmm.
emergencies where people need to know that this is an emergency and they immediately need to see a vet at this immediately. So what kind of emergencies would you see at for in daily practice?
Um, so with us, I get a lot of calls for emergencies, especially in the middle of the night. Usually, it's some dog has a diarrhea, or they woke up in the morning at 7 o'clock, and then their dog's poo looked a little funny, and so then people
Mm,
call in at that time. It is not an emergency. I would wait for a few more hours and then call me. But and sorry, just to say. And yeah, and yeah, so I wouldn't be sorry, where was I?
Diarrhea is not an emergency.
Yeah. And but call your vet at a very reasonable hour. That would be really
Yeah.
helpful.
Unless, like,
And
of course,
but if,
it's like literally pooping blood. If that's an
yep,
emergency.
in which case then you can call, and I don't mind picking those calls up. But yeah, it's just that keep an eye on the dog, and if it is has a little bit of diarrhea, get it hydrated. Give it like ORS and water. Something like buttermilk would help. You know, but yeah, just keep an eye on things and let your vet know as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah. We have another question. She asks, Saloni says, what if a dog eats a lizard?
Um, Usually with geckos, they tend to throw them up pretty
They
quick.
throw them out.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's nothing to be that concerned about. If it's a lizard, so you have geckos and lizards. With lizards, it's fine. Usually they aren't toxic. Geckos can
yeah,
be slightly poisonous, and then they cause you'll see your dogs drooling and excessively salivating usually, and then they just normally
yeah,
throw it up. If they don't throw it up, then the saltwater vomiting technique would work really well.
yeah, yeah. And okay, and so I think what also people need to know is what signs they should look out for, because a lot of times they wouldn't see their dog eating something, or they wouldn't know until it's too late, until it's gotten really bad. So some of the basic signs that they need to look out for to know that something is not right here, and they need to see a vet
Yeah.
immediately.
So there's a few things I'd be on the lookout for. If there's a few symptoms that I've heard people talk about over the phone when they call in, would be excessive panting, even though it's like the temperature is fine, uh, like difficulty breathing. We've actually had a case where there was a dog that was head pressing, where
Yeah,
they just sit against the wall or just lean against the wall with their forehead, and or even if your dog is limping or and circling, sometimes if you notice any circling, that's an emergency. Get
I
to a
think,
vet
yeah, a lot of
immediately.
times people don't notice when the dog has nystagmus.
Yeah,
So that is something that you need to watch out for. Look at your dog's eyes. If they're moving from side to side really quickly, or they're moving up and down really quickly, it means that there's something wrong and they need to see the vet. And yeah, I think right. So I'm just going to quickly answer Srishti's question here. It says how to prevent minor fungal infections inside paws. Look, if it's a minor fungal infection, honestly, to prevent it, you'd have to just keep the paws completely dry. Okay, don't
yeah.
go ahead and put any antifungals that you get over the counter. Uh,
Hmm.
so just keep the paws extremely dry, blow dry them if necessary. And as soon as they come back from a walk, if their paws are wet, just wash them with their regular shampoo, or just with just water is also fine. But make sure that the paws and between the space between the digits is completely dry, because that's what
Yeah,
causes the infection. So just make sure that there's complete dryness there.
yeah.
Okay,
One
and
one thing that we've
yeah,
been doing, which I recommend with some clients, is especially with dogs that go out a lot and you have your own garden at home, is at least once a day. Uh, I would recommend making like a mixture of 1 part apple cider vinegar and about 4 parts water, and then dipping a cloth into it and just wiping the feet or spraying it on the feet and wiping it off once a day.
yeah,
Especially if you know that your dog is allergic to certain things outside, and then just do that once a day, and it really helps prevent
yeah,
fungal infections as well.
yeah.
Hmm.
And okay, so Prashant, oh, he's actually a good friend. Is
Hmm.
coconut water good to give a dog to clear their tummy?
Yeah, I'd
Do
say
dogs
it's
like
fine.
coconut water?
It would be a challenge to get them to drink it, but then, like if they're really sick, then you can squirt it into their mouth slowly.
Yeah,
And
I don't know. I've never really had a dog like loving coconut water, but Yeah, I mean, I don't think
And
it really helps to clear their tummies as such, though.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
just good to keep them
sort
hydrated
of
and stuff.
yeah. Okay.
But
Okay.
what works is chicken broth. It works a lot better, and they drink it a lot faster.
Chicken broth, right? Yeah, definitely. I love chicken broth myself. Okay. What about bee stings or insect bites?
Um, so with a bee sting or an insect bite, like if you have like this big swollen mouth on a dog, a muzzle on a dog,
Yeah.
I would call your vet as soon as possible. And
Yeah,
if
I
there
don't
is a
think
bee,
there's
then take it off. That's
yeah,
about,
I don't think there's much you can do at home really. It really needs to see a vet if there is that kind of an anaphylactic reaction would be dangerous, so they need to see the vet. Yeah, and be careful when you also pull out the stinger so that none of it is left inside
behind. Yeah,
because
try
that
and
could
get it
get
out from the
infected.
base
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
bug.
And if your dog gets fits, honestly, don't touch it. Let the fit pass and take it to the vet immediately.
Yeah. If it's on
So
the floor and you see it banging its head, then kind of put something soft underneath, like a
pillow,
towel or
yeah,
a
yeah,
pillow. That's
yeah. But don't
and
like try to hold the dog, while it's struggling. Just let that fit pass. Like don't
and
try to get
definitely don't
to.
pour water into its mouth.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they can choke on it. So just be very very careful about that. And like don't try to put your hand in their mouth, to pull out their tongue or anything of that sort because they cannot swallow their tongue. Uh, that
Yeah.
that doesn't happen.
And
So
unless you don't like your fingers, that's about. If you're not very fond of your digits, then yeah, then try doing
yeah,
whatever you
so
like.
don't do that. Just let it pass. I mean, obviously if they're on a bed or something where they're going to fall off, just put them on the floor, put them in a place where they can't hurt themselves, and let that seizure pass, and take them to the
Yeah.
vet. Okay. Okay, Mitali is asking if cleaning ears with betadine solution once a week is okay. Does it help?
I wouldn't recommend betadine every week. It's going to dry those ears out, and you're going to have
Yeah.
uh, like leave it
Yeah,
open
honestly,
to
you don't really need to constantly keep cleaning your dog's ears. A little bit of wax is healthy.
yeah.
So
But
unless
and if
they're
you do need
they
to clean the ears out, maybe use an epiotic or something
yeah, you get
non-medicated. It's just
a lot of ear cleaners are available, though not ear drops but ear cleaners. Okay, because the ear drops
yeah,
have antibiotics and steroids which you don't need unless the vet
which is,
prescribes it.
yeah, which
Yeah,
is
so
something
just
people just do all the time anyway. But yeah, Pomasol is not a go-to drug for everything.
no Pomisol, Calm Here, uh,
Yeah,
whichever other ones. Yeah, they are not ear cleaners, so you
yeah,
don't need to put that for anything and everything because it'll increase issues later.
yeah.
And yeah, so betadine,
And
no, just a regular ear cleaner is fine.
uh-huh. Cool.
Yeah, and so why
And
do dogs get fits? Honestly, Mitali, if we really go into that, we're gonna be here for a couple of hours. Uh, so dogs get fits for a lot of reasons. So I think that's actually a talk about neurology, which is completely different. I think that's kind of out of syllabus at the moment.
yeah, but it's everything from epilepsy to worms to anything. So see a vet if your dog has.
Yeah. So okay, I think we've pretty much covered any of it. If you guys have any more questions, you guys are absolutely free to ask. What I'm also going to do is put up Dr. Shantanu's dial a vet service number here for anyone who wants to take it down. And, if you have any questions for him or if you've missed the live session and you want to ask him a question separately, here's the number for dial a vet.
And
And
yeah, and even if it's not an emergency and you just need this thing, any veterinary advice, and or if you need a second opinion, if you've been going to see a vet and things aren't working out, we also have specialists who can kind of help with. We have a team of about 6 specialists now. So everything from large animal practice to exotics to chickens and welfare and shelter medicine. And so we've got lots of people on board. So
Nice. It's like a coverall. Like, that's great.
yeah,
So I
we're
hope
actually now
everyone's, yeah.
we're
Thank
expanding
you.
now to offer the service for vets. So
Thanks a lot, Prashant. That's really sweet. And also you can check out Dr. Shantanu's website. That's the woofwagon.com. So
yep.
you can check that out as well. Also, if you want to speak to me about anything related to exotics as well, this is my Instagram handle, where I also keep posting videos, educational videos about how to help your pets, etc., like basically client education videos. So you could check out my Instagram page, and this is also my number. So if you have any issues, uh, if you want to talk about your exotic pets or even basics in dogs and cats, you can definitely give us a call and we'll try to help you out as much as we can. But I also just want to state that going to your vet is not something that you can avoid. Okay, there are a lot of services available even to you, so do not trust what your neighbor or breeder or your chemist says. Please speak to your
Or what
vet,
Facebook?
or oh yeah, Facebook or WhatsApp or Dr. Google or anybody says. Please trust your vet. Okay, we are all here to help you. So I hope this talk was useful to all of you, and I hope you have had a great time. I'm just gonna run through those numbers once more. This is for Dr. Shantanu for Dial a Vet, so you can call him for any emergencies that you might have, any consults you might have. It's available all across the country. Okay, so you guys can give this number a call. The woofwagon.com is his website. This is my Instagram page. It's Critter Care Veterinary. So you guys can look that up if you want. I'm based in Mumbai. And this is also my phone number. If you guys need any help with that, you guys are free to call or message on this number. And I hope everyone's had a good time, and I hope this was useful to you guys. If there's anything else, if you've also again missed this talk, or if you've missed anything, please feel free to contact us, or contact dogspot.in for any other queries that you might have, and they can also help you get in touch with us. Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Dr. Shantanu, for joining me in this talk.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Dr. Hannah, for uh, conducting it. It was yeah, it was fun, and we
It
should
was
do
fun.
this. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm also on Instagram if you need. But yeah, you can always call the
What's
number.
your Instagram handle?
Oh, the wildlife vet, the underscore
Okay.
wildlife
Yeah.
underscore vet, and
Okay. So
yeah,
yeah, that's Dr. Shantanu's Instagram handle. If you guys if you have any queries, because I honestly I do get some queries even on Instagram, which is uh, strange. But yeah. Okay,
cool.
so thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope this was an insightful talk, and I hope you've gained something out of this. And again, if you have any queries, please feel free to contact us, and we can help you in any way we can. All right. All
All
right.
right.
See you, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Stay safe, guys.